heard to order. Mike will do the roll.
Commissioner Bertram?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Persky?
Here.
Commissioner Notch? Here. All present.
I always want to say absent, but I don't. Next time I'll do that. I should have done it.
And also minded.
Please all stand, and we'll do the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first order of business would be to approve the agenda. If there is a motion, if everybody agrees.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Clark, seconded by Commissioner Notch to move the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. The consent agenda, if I can say it, we have 10 items on the consent agenda for this morning.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item 3 and item 5.
Okay. So the request is to pull those 2 items, so there would be 8 items on the consent agenda then for us to initially approve. Any further items to be pulled? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the 8 items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Persky moves the consent agenda. Commissioner Notch seconds it. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So let's take E3 first.
Okay, E3 was an addition, a development out in Richmond, Munson County, our township. I believe the vote was 3-2. However, the chair had abstained from that, which means it could have gone either way. There was quite a bit of lengthy discussion between the city and the township. However, much of that conversation didn't happen until after the proposal had come through. There's concerns about the long-range planning for Richmond, and then also what the plans are for expansion within the township. So I guess I would like to see us have a separate public hearing on that and hear that both sides make their case.
Shelley, you have something to add, or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. As Commissioner Persky said, there was quite a bit of debate. That was on May 22nd with the Planning Commission. If you would choose to have your own public hearing, we would look to the second meeting in October, I believe is the 23rd. So that would be the earliest we could do public hearing.
Okay. Any further, Commissioner Clark?
So has there not been any more work
21st.
between May and now, between the entities?
I'm unsure if they've had any further discussion, but I think you could get all of that. We will have a conversation. We can certainly let both entities know that they should have discussion prior to that meeting. And then you guys can hear that outcome on the 22nd 21st. I keep saying 22nd, I'm sorry.
Tuesday, October 21st would be that meeting. Commissioner
Yeah,
Clark?
I believe Commissioner Persky probably is making a motion, which I'll be happy to second. But I think we'd all really appreciate it if they would have some more conversations, so we're not just trying to figure this out solely during a public hearing.
I totally agree with that, yeah. And that's growing pains we see oftentimes with communities and townships.
And to that point, can it change? And what's before us is before us. I would hope, and that was what some of us were talking, that they would talk and work some things out before, but really we're going to be operating on what's before us, or no?
Yep, you'd be operating on what's before you, but if they have an agreement or they work something out, it could be withdrawn. There could be a whole host of changes if they have additional discussions. I don't know if they want to work out an early annexation agreement or what processes that they want to go through, but I will certainly be having a conversation with both the township and the city so that then I can report back to you to let you know kind of what we're hoping to hear, and then if any changes are made at that point.
I'm not sure how you have those conversations, but I think it would be helpful to have it in person with the township, the city, and the developer. And I certainly would be a part of that if you wanted me to be.
Let me check schedules and see how that goes, and we'll see if that's an option that's available, or if we need to put this off further, we'll let you know.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, to the chair's question and point, so it sounds like while we will have this specific recommendation in front of us, if they come up with an agreement, they have some opportunities to either withdraw it, as you said, and resubmit, but they also could come with a recommendation that we could choose
Correct.
to do something with. So we have a little flexibility, and certainly the parties the chair is talking about make a lot of sense.
So, and just because we haven't done this lately, I want to understand that. So we have our own public hearing, we could do our own conditions or whatever and change what's before us.
You can add any conditions, you can change conditions because you're holding your own public hearing. So that public hearing, that outcome, that additional information can make a difference in what is in front of you, yes.
Got it. Good. Okay, all good points.
We need a vote.
Did you make a motion?
Yep, and to get a second.
Well, I think I suggested that you.
Yeah,
were
Okay,
the
I'll make that
vote, so
motion.
I don't want to speak for
Yep,
you.
I never, oh, God,
Yeah.
that would be
We can
fun.
get into sock puppets
Yeah.
or something,
Okay.
right?
Okay, Commissioner Persky, or forcibly made a motion to continue this item. Commissioner Clark easily seconded it. Any discussion? If not, we'll then set our own public hearing for October, or what do we do?
You can set your public hearing, we'll give you the date when we have something. I want to make sure I have conversations and know if there's any, if
Okay.
I have to push it out a little further.
So we will not approve it, there really is no motion.
Well, there's a motion for a public hearing.
Oh, just
Date-
set a public
just
date
hearing.
to be
Just to
determined.
set it.
Okay, so,
And determined by staff.
yep, got it. So we'll set a public hearing to determine the date from staff, and of course, you'll let everybody know when that is. Okay?
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. And then E5.
And Shelley, you can just stay there for that one. That is with the invasive species and the Watercraft inspection. Just looking at that cost, it's almost $500,000 over the next 3 years. And I'm just wondering, again, with our funds, making sure that we are not going to be held accountable for any of those funds as far as getting those inspections done. And it's been my experience, I've had a couple of those inspections at the landings, and they were fine. But when I was there, they were by volunteers. And here, I think it's, through this firm, and they are being paid almost $30 an hour. I just want to make sure that, again, that after 3 years, or within these next 3 years, that's not going to be coming out of the county budget, so. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, we only expend the dollars that we have. We know that the state budget has been cut by 50% in this particular area, which starts in 2027. So the Aquatic Invasive Species Committee is having that conversation about what they think might happen with inspections. So it would be a reduction. And then each individual lake that has historically requested some of those funds for inspection, they will be having that conversation. Do they want to backfill in with their money, or do they want to switch to a different type of service, like using those eyelids where they have the little machine and it takes a picture of who's coming in and out of the lake, and if, all of that information. So there's a process. I feel like we're in good shape. We have been aware of the budget reduction, and all of the AIS committee is aware of it, and all the lake associations are aware of it. We are staying on top of it, and we will not be expending additional dollars out of the county budget. They have to expend their own at the lake associations.
And I appreciate those lake associations doing what they're doing, so, yeah. And again, the people I met were courteous at the landing to just make sure that I'm not carrying critters around, so, yeah.
Correct.
How much do you work with, like, I can't believe you don't work with the DNR and other agencies in doing this. Sunday, we took our pontoon off. DNR was at the landing in Paynesville, and they were spraying the boats off if you wanted them to. And so they were cleaning everything up and everything, which I thought was interesting, like, again, like another great preventive. And he said they just do that once in a while at different landings, and it just happened to be in Paynesville on Sunday.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. So DNR does random work. They let us know. I'm not sure if how they let us know, but I know they have kept us in the loop typically that they're doing different inspections in different locations. But there is a process, and then the lake associations will request a certain amount of coverage too for certain inspection hours. So I believe between DNR and ourselves, we try to cover, and those lake associations, as many access points, especially the heavily used access points. So I think we're in good shape dollar-wise at this point.
Okay. So somebody want to make a motion to approve E5?
I'll move that.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Persky, second by Commissioner Notch to approve item E5 on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That item is approved. Then we'll recess the regular meeting, and we'll go into the Human Services Board consent items. So a motion to approve those consent items would be in order. Do you have anything to add, Melissa?
Oh, good morning, Melissa Heberty. I'm the Human Services Administrator, and there's only 3 items on the consent agenda today, G1 through G3 on pages 91 through 93. I'm available for questions if you have them.
Okay, any questions?
Move the consent agenda, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Clark
Approval.
moves Human Services consent agenda items, 3 items. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll close the Human Services Board. We'll reconvene the county board meeting. And then the first item would be to conduct the public hearing on the tax abatement for Lewis Industries, and Mike's going to head that up.
I will, thank you, Mr. Chair. If we can get the PowerPoint brought up, hopefully.
Is Mr. Lewis not going to be with us this
Mr.
morning?
Lewis is here via Teams.
Okay.
So
I didn't want to miss seeing his,
We tested the sound beforehand, so I hope he's there and can hear, and we'll be able to hear him. And we just want to talk a little bit, give you a little bit of a description about the policy and what's being recommended here. As you know, the county, Stearns County hasn't approved very many tax abatements in the past. There's only a handful, if that, on the books today. And that is because, we can move the slides, and that is because we frown upon doing the tax abatement, and we try, and in doing that, we try to push development and local governments to use tax increment financing, and so we want that to be the first option. In this particular case, that doesn't work very well, and you'll see that we think that it does meet the county's policy for approval. So how the process works is we receive a request for an abatement, and we have an internal committee that reviews those requests, and that committee is consisted of me, the Auditor-Treasurer, the HRA Director, and the Property Services Director. And so we've been dealing with this since the request came in. And actually, Mark Iverson, our Land Records Coordinator, has done most of the legwork and most of the communications with the city because the city is considering an abatement as well. And so you'll hear from Mark in a minute. And so your policy leans towards abatement approval when it's a manufacturer and something that's or a value-added process and something that shows some significance to the region or the county. Of course, we want to see an increase in tax base and the creation of jobs. We want those jobs to be paying a livable wage, which this one does. And then we also want to be sure that there's participation from other local government partners. And you'll see that the committee felt like this proposal from Lewis Industries did check all those boxes. As a matter of fact, we had 2 requests at the same time, which is a little odd, but we had a request for an abatement for a new hotel in Sartell at pretty much the same time this request came in. The committee told the hotel developer that we would not recommend approval of that because it didn't fit the policy, and then we didn't hear from them anymore. This one went the other way, where we feel like it meets the criteria established in the policy. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mark to get into a little more of the details of this particular request and this particular resolution that's being proposed.
Thank you. Welcome,
Good morning,
Mark.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Mark Iverson, the Land Records Coordinator for the county. Yeah, just to talk in a little more in depth on this Lewis Industries abatement request. This property was originally in a TIF district, and there are some certain things that came into play that TIF wasn't going to be a real agreeable thing for how they're doing their economic abatements or their development. And so when they came forward to the board back in 2021 to look for an abatement, and at that time, the TIF district was decertified and the abatement is set up so it runs very much like a TIF district would run. So they had an abatement that started in 2021, and actually 2023 was when the abatements started to occur on the first abatement. And with this new request, the new requested abatement would not begin until the first one is completed. Okay, so they're not going to be running concurrently. If approved, the first abatement would be sped up, so they would get a little more abatement as this property developed. And so I don't know that it's typical to have 2 abatements running at the same time, but there's exceptions that are listed in the policy for Western Stearns County. So those are some of the special considerations for this. Okay, so some of the project, Lewis Industries is proposing to add on roughly 43,000 square feet to their existing facility, and it has an estimated total project cost at $9 million. And in that $9 million, there is the cost of construction. We have additional equipment. So that $9 million covers a wide variety of things for that company. They're expected, as indicated, to add 15 additional jobs with a hourly wage of $20 an hour, average wage of $20 an hour plus benefits. And Lewis Industries has been located in its current location since 1999, has undergone 4 actual different site improvements during this time. So some of the impacts that the county would see if it was chose to approve the abatement. Right now, for the current abatement, the county's levying roughly $15,000. So as an abatement, it isn't something where a county or a city or a school district is shorted any levy dollars. What happens is the county board, the city council would levy the funds in addition to their normal levy. It would be included as part of their regular levy so that no one is shorted. So it's an increase in the levy through that time of the abatement. So right now, the county is levying roughly $15,000 per year. The new abatement would add roughly $10,000 per year through the term of the abatement.
If I could just interrupt you for 1 second,
Yeah,
Mark,
please.
and that $10,000 is included in the 2026 preliminary budget too.
Okay.
But again, this abatement is set up similar to a TIF district. So as there's growth with the development of that project, 90% of the growth is what gets, the taxes on that is what gets returned, and then 10% of that growth is retained by the county. And the abatement timeframe is not, even with this current one that's being requested, wouldn't extend beyond 10 years. So this would end in 2032. So if the first abatement were to run through 2032, essentially there would be no abatement. So it's holding very consistent with the policy of having it operate like a TIF district, not extending any further than that. So just to not get lost in the numbers here, but this is an illustration of how the abatement would look. So you see in the gray column, that is how abatement 1 would work. So that started in 2023, and you'll see in the far column, so A1 would be abatement 1. That's what we're estimating the current tax abatement would be, where you would see a growth after year 4, and that's picking up some of the growth of the new development that would occur. After that time, abatement 1 was not to exceed $110,000. That was the terms of the first abatement. So you'll see where it would end projected at year 7, and then you would see abatement 2 starting year 8, 9, 10, and that's where in the resolution we're saying not to exceed $78,000. So the total abatement for Lewis Properties, the Lewis Industries, would be not to exceed 10 years or $188,000. So during that time, the portion of the levy that the Lewis Industries would pay over those 10 years would be of roughly $434,000. The amount that would be abated would be roughly $188,000, and the county would be retaining roughly $247,000. And again, these are all estimates, and if you look at the estimated market value, that's making assumptions of projected growth. It's using a projected tax rate of where we are now, and then the base is what was extended in the first resolution or the first abatement plan. So that's the base level that their tax capacity is, so they pay tax on all that, and then as there's growth, they're still paying tax on this, they're only getting abated part of the growth.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark, for your heavy lift on this. You provided a lot of information. I had many questions, and you answered them very thoroughly, so appreciate that. Lance, are you with us? Do you want to share anything? Oh, I suppose maybe what we should do is open the public hearing. So why don't we, or if you're done, Mark, if there's no questions of Mark, he'll stay there, obviously. Why don't we open the public hearing? Is there anyone here from the public to talk on this issue? And then now would probably be the time, Lance, if you're with us, to say good morning and something nice about me probably would be a good time right now.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble.
Yep,
Get
so
nothing to
one of
say.
you are gonna have to say something nice about me instead, I guess. Lance, are you with us?
Are you there, Lance?
Yep, he's on mute.
You're on mute, Lance. Oh. Everybody wants to see how good you look, and they want you to turn your microphone on. Anybody that knows Lance knows that it's not like him not to talk, so this is an opportunity. So this is, by the way, it's third generation. I was honored to know Alfred and his wife, and then of course Leo and Cecil, and now Lance and Logan are the third generation. So are you with us now, Lance? I think they're trying to hook you in, but anybody here from the public hearing in the audience? I don't see anybody. We'll leave the public hearing open just in case we can get Lance looped in. It's
He
these
thought,
cricket
he probably
awkward-
thought our meeting was boring, so he walked away from the computer.
IT is always exciting. Okay,
Just walked away.
I don't think it's important. Yeah. So there's nobody here from the public on this, so we'll close the public hearing. And Lance isn't with us. There's really no, unless there's questions, I guess the motion would be to approve the resolution authorizing the economic development tax abatement for Lewis Industries.
I'll make that motion to approve, and just reiterating, this will be ending. There won't be another extension. It certainly has been an important business in the county, and appreciate all the work you and others have done.
I'll second that.
Okay.
It's nice to see, they're choosing to do it here instead
Exactly.
of the other location.
Yep.
Exactly.
So the motion's been made by Commissioner Clark, seconded by Commissioner Notch. And it's unique in that it's a second abatement, and the city school district deed is involved, and so there's a host of governmental entities involved in providing assistance, and of course, the huge investment that the Lewis Industries is making themselves, so that's good.
Absolutely.
So motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion?
Just a
Commissioner Persky?
I've not been too supportive of abatements in the past, and I think the county has not either. As budgets are, every dollar is important, and when one company comes in and asks for an abatement, that means, the lifting has to come from everyone else. However, the terms of this one, I guess I'm going to be okay with. Just a little bit concerned. I saw an average wage of $20 an hour. I would hope that even their starting wages are at least hopefully supporting, folks that are looking for jobs, because things are tough for those folks that are on the entry-level jobs. We all know that.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Just
Notch?
to add on, I noticed in the exhibit, they have had 15 jobs, average wage of $22 plus $7 an hour benefits. So it's a little better.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm just curious about the entry level. So,
Yep.
okay. That's
Okay.
just a comment.
Okay. No further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, thank you, Mark, and everyone.
We were going, Mr. Chair, we were planning to tour Lewis Industries on a road tour this year, but then we ended up not having the road tour. So maybe next year we'll
That'd be great.
tour Lance.
Sure,
Lance's shop.
they'll be well on their way with their project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be good.
Okay. Next action item would be the flexible work policy discussion that we've been asking for to have finalized. We talked about this on June 24th and then July 29th. There's been a lot of information sifted back and forth, and we really never resolved it. So this is our time to resolve it, I guess. So anybody have any discussion on the flexible work schedule? Flexible work, you might want to, Mike, why don't you explain a little bit for the public, what are we talking about? I mean, we know what we're talking about, but
Yeah, several years ago, the board adopted or approved a policy that really gives our department directors flexibility in administering a flexible work policy. So, and I know that includes a lot of things, including 4 10-hour days, 12-hour days, that kind of thing. But I think the focus of the discussion here has been our hybrid workers, which we have about 2/3 of our folks do work in a hybrid format. And that is, I would say, it is different for each department. If you imagine it doesn't get used much in law enforcement, for example, although it does a tiny bit, where in human services, where the work is typically in the field, it gets, people are working in the field and sometimes don't come in the office, they start from home, those kinds of things. And a number of workers that can work a number of days at home. And as we, since COVID, and then as we adopted this policy, it really has evolved. And I would use my own department, a very small amount, and how we administer this here. We started out kind of not really very organized. Some people would work from home from time to time. Then we, as it evolved, we're like, well, we need to be sure there's at least, a certain amount of people here at a time, and hopefully we can have, for example, the assistant administrator or myself in the office at least most of the time, which is dependent on schedules. But anyway, my point is that I think that every department has gone through an evolution of this and realizing how they really can arrange it so that we provide the best services as possible, but still allowing the hybrid work. And I think, and what we've tried to show you in the last 2 discussions is that it's working quite well. It might look way different than it did 3 years ago when this policy adopted, but it is working quite well. I will point out that the policy does allow a department director to have somebody work all remote, but I would let you know that we don't have really anybody that's 100% remote. And we've even when we've had, I recall an interview, and I tell you what, I can't even remember where it was, but what department, but we had a candidate that was interested in working for the county, but they wanted to be sure that assured that they could have certain days where they could work at home, whatever, I can't really even remember what it was, like a Monday and a Friday. Well, our response was, yes, we do allow hybrid work arrangements, but we can't guarantee you what days you're gonna be in and what days you're gonna be out, because the work needs to get done, and sometimes that means you're gonna have to be in the office. So just another example of how this has evolved and how department directors are managing the people and the work arrangements. So as you could see, I didn't recommend any changes because I think you would hear from our department directors as well that we think it's working well. We understand the concerns that we hear and through the years have made changes that I think we're in a pretty good place now, but I know it will continue to evolve as well.
Okay. Commissioner Notch?
So Mike, how do you handle the ones that are further away if they're not? You said there's nobody that's totally virtual.
Yep. They're still in the office from time to time, for sure.
Yeah. I just had a couple of, if I can ask them.
Yep, Commissioner Notch?
Under 7.45, the work arrangements, there's a comment in there, regardless of work profile, department directors shall sign off on core collaboration schedules in their departments and submit them to administration for review. Does that happen very often? Maybe it did a while back, or is that maybe with new employees or?
Jennifer, can you help with that question at all? I'm not so sure.
Because it sounds like the
supposed
department
to be.
director can ask it, and then it has to come to administration.
Yeah, it's just so that we would have knowledge that there's times when they have people and people are required, but I'm not so sure that that part of the policy has been adhered to too closely.
Commissioner Birch, members of the board, you're referring to the first paragraph under 7.45.
A,
What's that?
under A,
Under the core collaboration.
yeah.
And Jennifer, just state your position for the record.
Human Resources
Yep.
Director. So what we do is we refer information to administration and HR on the delivery model, which is above the core collaboration hours. We consult with departments. I don't know that there's a formal process, but those are all on the administration's records, those core collaboration hours.
Okay, because I just seen where it says you sign off and it goes to administration for review. And I'm assuming administration has to sign off too then? Or doesn't it really happen?
It
Maybe.
doesn't have a sign off, but just so
Oh.
we have knowledge and can react if we want to, if we think we need to.
Okay. And then
Commissioner Notch?
the only other one I had was under 7.46 under D. Does that happen very often? We're asked to work outside of Minnesota? Because the policy states they have to work within Minnesota.
Jennifer?
7.46D, to my knowledge, and I would think payroll would go the same, we don't have any tax code set up for any other states. Sometimes we have individuals traveling for business, they may be working remotely by their hours, but not as a record of business that we have licensure for taxation in other states, we work in Wisconsin, things like that.
Well, I'm just wondering if take for instance, if Mike goes to Florida for a month, if you have employees that do that, do they have to request that, or does that happen very often?
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Notch. I mean, it does happen, certainly at my level. The department director is expected to be gone and and is going to do some work while they're out of state. I'm told that or asked that. I'm not so sure on at the department director and below level, but it does happen at my level.
Okay. And then you guys just make note of that type of stuff?
It's you know, it's a temporary thing.
Okay. All right.
With 1,000 employees, obviously, and a lot of departments, one thing I heard very quickly is county employees have strong opinions about this both ways. I mean, I guess I was surprised at the number of county employees that contacted me that said that they thought it should change. And some departments, as we know, are fully in person, and some are almost all not in person or remote. So there is huge variety. And you know, as I've shared every time we talked about this, there's definitely a public perception and public reality to some degree that, you know, you may be, the chances it's going to be more productive if it's in person where people can actually see someone and actually get an answered phone call and what have you. But as Shelley knows and Mike knows, environmental services has been the most thing that I've heard about, and second to that is this. So surprisingly, I'm waiting for something to go above environmental service issues, but we might never get there. But this is certainly talked about, and I think in the meetings that the two previous meetings, County Attorney Kendall said, while expecting people to come back, and this was in July, at the July meeting, expecting people to come back 100% isn't realistic. And I very firmly and very straightforwardly said, absolutely, I agree with that. But I said not expecting them to come back to some degree isn't realistic either, so I'm looking for a compromise. And nothing's been talked about, to my knowledge, or at least brought to us. So that's why we're doing this today. But in my opinion, to bring everybody back 100% wouldn't be realistic, but bringing them back to some degree, I think, is realistic. And then with the expectation that we would have a date, you know, that we could plan for to do that. Commissioner Clark had her hand up.
Yeah, I think for me, just a couple of questions that or things that maybe if you'd be willing to talk about, Dr. Williams, it might be helpful for us, it might be helpful for the public, and it might not. One is, clearly there are some jobs that have to be done in person. You can't plow roads remotely, right? So if you could both speak, I guess maybe I backed into it because that's really my second question, but about how balancing or helping folks who have to be in person, who may feel somewhat resentful of somebody else doing the work elsewhere, knowing that everybody is doing work in person part of the time. But if you could talk a little bit about that. And then the other part was really, maybe this was grounded in our strategic planning, which we haven't had an opportunity to do for a while because we've had a few other projects about being the employer of choice, among other things. There clearly are, again, generationally, some different folks. Attorney Kendall talked about this has been going on in the county attorney's office for 20 years and started under her predecessor. But, you know, as we were talking about how we are the employer of choice, what does that look like? And I would hope that this can be at least grounded back when we finally get back to doing our strategic planning. How does this fit in? Because I also hear about people, I don't think any of us mean to do this, we're asking good questions, but I've heard from some that think that our board is sending the signal that staff are not valued, that they're wondering if they should even have a place here. And I don't think that the board is trying to do that. So I'm hopeful, or anybody in leadership, so I'm hopeful you could just talk a little bit about what it means to be an employer of choice, and then how, and whether it's fully a you or a Jennifer question, helping deal with the challenges of very different jobs and strong feelings. I've got some of you have heard me say this, I have a now 7-year-old granddaughter, and we talk about big emotions a lot. This is something that can have big emotions, and when we've talked about this previously, it's really been grounded in getting the work done, which I know that you've been giving us information about, and making sure that we're meeting our residents where we're at. But it would, I think, to your point, there are people who have different feelings about this. So if you could address those, that would appreciate it.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Clark, I will ask Jennifer to respond a little bit to to how important this is for retention and attraction of employees. And the messaging we've used with our employees is, I think there was some people, probably still some employees that resent the fact that some people can work from home, but we've tried to lost my train of thought. Jennifer, you come up and talk first then. I think there was. I think that's lessened now. The message from the leadership teams, the number one priority for us is to provide the best services we can. And we can't let the flexible work or hours of work, anything that's involved in this policy, get it to the detriment of providing those services. Obviously, there's, as you said, Commissioner Clark, there's positions that aren't going to be able to work from home. We probably have people. Well, I know we have people that might prefer to be in the office, and so then they're able to be in the office. So, but I'm going to let Jennifer answer some of those questions.
Jennifer?
Yeah. Commissioner Bertram, Jennifer Thorsten, Human Resources Director. Sharon Westhoff is actually here with us too, and she manages our recruitment program. And so, as Mike Williams said, not all jobs are conducive to certain work environments. I mentioned 410s, flexible work schedules, varied work shifts. And what's important really fundamentally is the flexibility that it provides our applicants to be an employer of choice, whether that's 410 shifts or in law enforcement where we're running 10s, 12-hour schedules. Flexible work schedules in human services have been going on since I've been here for over 20-some years. And so as we see new generations come into the workplace, in the interview questions, as the recruitment team has shared with me, is flexible work environments are one of the #1 items asked. The responsibility of us as leaders in the organizations are to hold the employees accountable to performing those work tasks to deliver the services to the constituents that we serve on a regular basis. And we've been able to do that, and I know Melissa talked much about the metrics as well as our IT director. So we have many more metrics, many more resources in terms of performance and performance management. Those resources are more here now in today's environment in 2025 than they had been in the past. So to Mike Williams' approach, things have been advancing in industry over the past 5 years. So what it looked like then to what it looks like now does look very different. Again, our goal is to reach our constituents and serve them, and that is all of our interests as leaders of the organization. But again, I can share from the recruitment standpoint, areas like, public health, social work, other areas, those are key positions that are vacant and open, and we've found ways to do that and to be effective. And so when we do interviews, we've lost several candidates. If our recruiters were here today, they could tell you about that. Again, each department has a balanced approach in how they run their flexible work schedules. Based on the needs of the constituents that they serve. So that's why it does vary based on their book of business. But again, I can share with you that our current employees are concerned about it. They've brought it to our attention in terms of concerns of what that might do. To your point, Commissioner Notch, those that work distance and remote locations do come into work on a regular basis too, as required by their leadership and their leadership team. In terms of connectability, we're very well connected within the organization with Microsoft Teams, other platforms in which are being developed by IT. But again, it is a key component for those positions eligible. I do recognize and appreciate that different positions within the organizations view it differently. Fair, not fair, you know, there's always perceptions on that piece of it too. So certainly understand, Commissioner Bertram, where you're hearing some of that feedback, pros and cons. I understand that as well too. So any other questions I can answer on that?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to maybe paint things with a bigger, broader brush overall, and I want to go back pre-COVID. And I thought we were doing a pretty darn good job here in the county prior to COVID. Well, COVID definitely changed the way we operated, and we had to do things different because we weren't in the office. And some of the things we're doing perhaps are better, but as Mike had mentioned, you know, we should be trying to do the best service we can for the people we serve, and that's our goal. However, working remotely, I think, has disrupted some of the things that bring us all together and make us human. For overall performances, you know, I don't see the teamwork perhaps in a remote setting. I don't see the cooperation, mentoring and training, I think, is an issue. And then just the personal and the professional support we have. When you meet and talk to people and you share lunch with them, or you see them in the hallway and you talk about what's going on in their lives, and you can help and support each other on those professional things that you have, you know, questions about, or how to process things, and same thing about their personal lives. Actually show some caring, because I think we're more than people than just being on a computer screen. And so I know many companies have called their employees back, you know, and they've done incentives to get those people back. I know government agencies have done the same. And I think we could probably find a happy spot where we can have people back in the office and put office time. I don't think bringing people from home, bringing them into their office, should look at it as a penalty or a sentence that we're bringing you into your office. That shouldn't be it. I mean, we should be able to come together and work together, and that's part of the professionalism. So I think there might be a sweet spot as far as bringing folks back a number of days, not 5 days a week, but somewhere that we know they're going to be in the office. We build the buildings, we have the space, and we're building a $325 million facility, and I believe all of those related to the courts and the justice servicing are putting in office space and meeting rooms, and those are intended to be, you know, for people to actually be in attendance. If we were going to go with a high model of being remote, we shouldn't be building the building that's been proposed. And that's been one of my concerns. But I do think that somehow there's a sweet spot that we can bring people back here to the office and work cooperatively, and know that you know, they're going to see their colleagues. They've got questions for their colleagues are going to help them. And again, I'm concerned about the mentoring, the training, the cooperation, the teamwork, and that just doesn't happen when we're all online.
Mike?
Commissioner Persky, I appreciate those comments. We are not all online, though. People are in the offices on a regular basis.
Commissioner Clark?
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place to do it, but, you know, in really thinking about this, I guess for me, there's 4 different pieces. One, and they all relate back to some of our core, our mission, our values, our goals, and the budget then, is really meeting residents where they're at. We are fortunate to be a county that we can have people out in the field, we can have people in the office, we can have people doing the focused work remotely. Nobody's working remotely. We are at best, we have hybrids, right? Second is looking at outcomes. We're still working on our performance measures, looking more like outcomes than outputs, but really, what are we meeting? Are we really doing the work with people? And that requires our staff to be really pretty nimble, with the exception of few people. So are we meeting, are we getting really good outcomes? And I think we are. I think we keep seeing those outcomes. Can we do better? Absolutely. We always do. I'm particularly proud of like our community partnerships, among others. 3 is being an employer of choice, and then 4th is budget. We've saved some money with the fact we've got people working in a hybrid situation. And let's face it, the Justice Center is going to have people working in there. I mean, that's, again, if you're working in a jail, you got to be in a jail. There's a whole bunch of pieces with that. I want to make sure I share those concerns. But for me, I'm trying to keep it higher level in terms of why we're doing these things or permitting it. And this is not new. And there have been some real challenges for some families with not having some flexibility. And while we probably don't want to go down that now, I think as we're looking at updating our strategic plan, we'll have an opportunity to talk even more about this. And then lastly, I just want to say it's hard managing people's emotions. And we just need to remember that different jobs require different kinds of things, ways of work.
And I think,
Chair.
go ahead, Commissioner Notch.
I was just going to add a suggestion. I know we have a new commissioner that should be coming on by the end of the year, and I believe we'll do the strategic planning beginning of next year. I would suggest that this be one of the topics at the strategic planning, because you have the department heads and administration there, and then we can have probably more of a high-end formal discussion on this, plus the new person can weigh in on it.
And I appreciate that, but we've been limping along, with 4 of us for quite some time. This issue's been before us well over a year. I think if we were to make a decision, and we could make a decision and say, by October 1st if we wanted to, but I don't think that would be reasonable. We could say everybody come back, and again, I don't think that would be reasonable. But saying January 1, start planning now, I think waiting for one member, delaying this further, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, but Commissioner Notch.
Yeah, I guess the only areas I really have concern or want to make sure are covered is in the human resource side and administration. Because to me, I think there should always be somebody here in those 2 main areas, because, with 900, almost 1,000 employees, issues come up, and this is just my opinion, meeting in person versus via Teams, Zoom, or email or phone call is more important than, all those other things, because you get more of the interaction, reaction, and some of these issues are people issues, that should be addressed. And hopefully, Mike and HR are at that point already where one of either Mike or Jill, or, there's always somebody here. Because I just think that's important, that any employee, granted, they don't necessarily reach out to administration, they should be going to their direct leads first, but I just think it's important that those 2 aspects are always available.
And especially the clientele that you're dealing with, a lot of them are older people sometimes, and they deal better face-to-face, and phone calls that come in when you're not in the office and remote and they get transferred. The one call thing that I brought up at the last meeting, I really do want to pursue that, again, because it's doable. And if you're not here, how does that get transferred and all that stuff, those discussions. But first and foremost, if anybody takes this as if we're not valuing their work, that's unfortunate. But I think Commissioner Clark stated it, Commissioner Persky stated it, I will state it now. That has nothing to do with, is everybody hitting on all cylinders? Of course not, they never will in any organization, but certainly we've got a good team, we've got a lot of employees. When I tell people we have 1,000 employees, they just look at me like a deer in the headlight, they can't believe that, and it's hard to manage that, and no doubt about it, but this has nothing to do with not valuing an employee. And of course, that we get hit with that all the time. We won't apply or we won't stay here if the laundry list of things don't happen. You know, if we don't get an increase, if we don't do this. So we get that. Of course, when our kids were younger, they never did it, but we all heard the stories where they said they're gonna hold their breath until they get what they want. Well, of course, either they pass out or they get over it, and then we go on to working out a resolution. So that's gonna happen, but this has nothing to do, in my opinion, about valuing its public perception. It's about, do we work for our own purposes? As Commissioner Persky said, before COVID, everybody was working and nobody thought nothing of it. And I'll tell you personally, when I didn't have to shave every day, sometimes I didn't even shower every day, I wasn't as productive as I was when I went into the office. Now, everybody's different. And even today, we all set the example. 9 out of 10 times, I probably wouldn't go to the Stearns County Fair every year like I have been doing. I go there for one reason, to set the tone. If we're asking people to come there, if we're asking our team to be there, then the commissioners should lead by being there, and the department directors should show by leading, being there, and so on down. And that's the same as the workplace. So part of it is, I still go to the office. I cut back, but I still go to the office because it's hard to be perceived in a position if you're not there. And what I heard, again, some of the things that I heard that were interesting, I never would have thought of. Zoom meetings. There are some meetings that really needed to be held in person. Well, as this hybrid work schedule has gone on, all of a sudden, meetings that really needed to be in person turned into Zoom meetings, and the people that were part of those meetings in person said they were totally unproductive because they weren't there dealing with something that had to be dealt with, because it just continues to kind of slide of saying, okay, you don't need to be here. And so that was something that was interesting. And this would not change, in my opinion, this would not change the in the field work. I mean, that, as what I've heard from everybody is, that's gone on forever, where if you live in Sauk Center, you do what you gotta do, and then you might report to the office that day or the next day. So none of that, in my opinion, needs to change or would change. But the reality of it is, and I know this is, again, change is hard for everybody, no matter what we do, but Target went to it, 75% of the workers are back in the office, however you want to call it, working. The state went to 50%. Having a lunch and doing that, you know, the mental part of it, you know, certainly there's a study that I printed that I'm not going to get into it in great detail, but and I brought up that health issue. One of the fastest growing mental health issues is people being loners, where they're not interacting with people and everything, and it's becoming a work mental health issue. I shared that with everybody on the 24th of July. So again, I sense, you know, that there's a flavor for bringing people back to a certain degree. You know, in Commissioner Notch's case, a couple of departments, if we do it, I think we do it. Certainly Commissioner Persky, Commissioner Clark doesn't seem to maybe necessarily be in a position that we need to change it. So, I mean, that's what we're kind of trying to figure out. So if I'm misreading that,
Yeah, I don't, I think leaving it as it is doesn't mean it stays stagnant. The things that Commissioner Notch brought up have already been attended to. It doesn't mean an actual change. And I'm guessing, I'm saying this tongue in cheek, I'm guessing nobody is suggesting we all start working within this building X many days a week either, because we are out in the field all the time. We are out working. So at this point, I do not see, personally, I don't see a need to change the policy, because the changes keep being made, and for the reasons I gave before, unless I'm mishearing him, I'm not hearing Commissioner Notch suggesting it needs wide-scale change. I am suggesting that this is part of our strategic planning, and I just heard him say that as well. So I'm not sure that you've got kind of a good way to, you know, I think part of it is that we've got people have different ways of work, and what, from a 30,000 foot and even a 10,000 foot, are people getting the job done? Are outcomes being met? Can people get the service in a variety of ways? And the answer has been yes. So it seems like it might be something else. You know, we aren't Target, we're not some of those other places. We've got people who are out there across our county. Mostly, I thought it was really interesting when we saw how many people live directly in our county or nearby. We've got a lot of people who are also constituents that are working and trying to figure this out. And there's been a whole lot of different articles on a variety of ways that people work. And I think when you have the opportunity with having as many staff as we do, it does give us the opportunity to be able to do some things in a different way than if we were in a county, say, of 15,000.
And I think this report, 12 of the top 15 employers in downtown Minneapolis have returned to full in-office working. So again, Target was one of them that I mentioned, but 12 of the 15, and with the state of Minnesota, 15. So this is not a new idea. I mean, this is not something that we're just pulling out of the air, I don't think.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair, I don't think we're ready perhaps for a hard decision today, but I don't think we're going to wait to do our strategic plan and wait for bringing that new person on board and kick the can that far down the road. I think we got some good dialogue out here on the table. And I think that, you know, if we're looking at a policy, like you said, November or October 1st doesn't make any sense. November 1st probably doesn't make any sense. But I would think January 1st could be a target for us to have some idea about what's going to happen. But not trying to make that decision today, but with the next meeting or the one after that, find that spot that we're going to be, that we're going to say that, you know, this is what we're going to be expecting.
And maybe I make decisions too quickly, but I'm getting tired of talking about this. I think we can give a direction today. But how long do we want to kick the can down the road? Again, this is nothing that isn't happening all around us. And, you know, of course, I always hesitate to go to AMC things, Association Minnesota County things, because when I do, and of course you interact with the commissioners from across the state, I mean, I talked to at least 90% of the commissioners in Alexandria could not believe that we weren't back at work model. You know, 90% of the people I talked to, counties, were back to 100%, 100%. And again, I'm not suggesting that. Commissioner Notch.
Just for clarification, so earlier, Mike, I think you said 2/3 were in some form of hybrid employment. The other third, I'm presuming, are the ones that have to be in, whether it's highway,
That would be,
you know,
bulk of them.
license center, whatever. So if 2/3 are a hybrid method, of that 2/3, what would you say is hybrid? 1 week, 3 days in, next week, 2 days in, or maybe you don't have a statistic like that, I'm not sure.
I'm looking at some of our human resources folks here, but.
You know, I mean, that would probably add credibility to
Yeah,
not us saying, well, we want 3 days, you know, if you have the statistics that says of that 2/3, this is how it's working.
And of the two, and that's a good question, Commissioner Notch. If in the hybrid, if you're a health inspector, if you're human services, you field work, you have to do home visits. Yeah, those are all very understandable. And again, that's not going to change. But that's a good question. And if that data was provided, I'd want names, positions, specifically, because we must be managing it somehow.
Because that would tell us a little bit more of the dynamics of
Right.
hybrid.
It would, and the concerns that I'm hearing, you know, concern about having collaboration time, team building time, time for training, time just for people to be with one another. A concern about making sure that leadership is showing a presence or is present. Concerns about my own office. Those are good concerns. I don't think saying that people need to be in the office a certain amount of time is gonna necessarily get at those issues. So maybe now that I've heard some of those more specific concerns and comments, I think we can take those back and answer some of the questions and
Yeah, because
perhaps
we might be-
offer some suggestions for change to the
Yeah,
policy.
maybe we're creating something we don't need to if they already
Yeah.
have the data that says we're doing 3 days, 1 week, 2 days, the following week. Wouldn't that be a good measure for us to know?
If that's in fact what we're doing, but I get the sense, Commissioner Notch, that that's not, because otherwise we wouldn't be getting the pushback that we're getting, saying that they don't, that department directors don't want them to come back. But if what you're saying is accurate, and that's why I would, if we're gonna get that data, I would want specific names and positions of who is coming in 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or something specific. And then I would be in favor of, referring it to the next meeting or to the October 21st meeting. But again, no, I don't want to wait until the end of the year. We talked about this, in my opinion, enough to know where we're kind of at. Commissioner Clark.
Well, and you certainly can make a motion if you want to. I think part of the reason for perhaps waiting is we may not have an agreement where you want it. So I would be interested in, I don't think we should be having names, so I'm going to be very clear about that. We have 1,000 people. I think we start running into data privacy issues and all kinds of things, plus that seems burdensome. But if we could have percentages about how many people are coming either in or out in the field at least 2 days a week, if you want to do it by 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, however you want to do it. But I would include out in the field with that because we have a lot of people who are out in the field. And for me, I don't know that you two would disagree with this. If we literally only say it has to be these days or this way, that's me as opposed to we want a percentage of time or we want people out in the field or however we want to do it. It takes away some flexibility that actually has been here for a very long time. This is not new stuff. It was new on the scale it was, and we are not, we actually, I think, are above average for counties, frankly. We have some really good practices. We also are finding ways that I think right now our supervisors know more about what their staff are doing or not than a lot of counties that have people coming into an office. Maybe even a little question about big brother or big sister on that one at times. But we have to remember, I think for us as a board, that we need to not just say that we're playing, whack-a-mole or one size fits all. So as we're looking at that, we might want to remember that some of our biggest competitors are actually some counties that do have this kind of flexibility. They are not going to be Target. They're not going to be some of these other places. There's also a really interesting article that I can't send you all, but I've sent to others about women in the workplace and what some of these changes have been meeting. And so having some flexibility to meet the very important things we're all talking about. I believe we do share a lot of goals with this, but we need to also be mindful of just some of the changes. One of our department heads at one point talked about this being generational. Everybody under 50, which we're all over 50, is looking for X, Y, or Z, and everybody over a certain age is still learning about change. And maybe that's something we all could work on too a little bit. So just throwing those things out here. I really appreciate that there's a lot of commonality that I'm hearing about what we hope.
I don't think it would be difficult. I'm sorry, thank you. I don't think it would be difficult to answer the question. I think we did have that in one of the packages that we sent you, maybe not in that exact form, but we'll resurrect that.
And again, I'm sorry to disagree with Commissioner Clark. I do want names and positions, and I don't think that is violating data practices, just like we have access to positions and salaries and names. I mean, that's certainly not something that...
And perhaps you'd make a motion on that then. I'm not sure, the amount of time it might take to get individual data is a lot, among other things. And how is it, are you going to put it out there publicly? I mean, and to what end? To what end do you want to, I mean this sincerely,
Right.
To what end are you hoping versus, we need data. We're at a higher level than looking at decisions about supervisors, I would suggest.
And I don't know, a commissioner has to make I can make a data request, I can do it a lot of different ways, I guess, but
Yep, you could.
I don't know that we need to go there. If we really truly have nothing to hide and we're willing to really look into this, which, again, Commissioner Notch brought this up, excellent point. If that's accurate, then that is a whole different flavor to what's going on. But again, that's why I want to classify it as in the field employees. That's a whole separate category than people that, when you say it's not that new, it isn't. This isn't that new.
Yep.
But 5 years ago, it wasn't that new that everybody was here. So, I mean, that just, COVID's over. I mean, God, I get a little tired about talking about COVID and tariffs. COVID's over with, and tariffs in a lot of places didn't even kick in yet. So, we got to deal with what's before us. So, but I'm willing to continue it, to get that information, but not forever. I mean, if we'd set maybe the 21st, that would certainly be a month to collect that data. And we all have stacks of this much of all the information that we were given. And remember the first interaction that we had with this in June, that Jill was so nice to present. It was 20 minutes of, there wasn't one negative thing about, I always have to make the list of negative or potentially negative, potentially positive, side-by-side comparison if you're really going to make a good decision. Neither scenario is perfect. And so we have to look at the different, and I think Commissioner Clark, one really excellent point you made was, we're doing this, we're meeting this and everything. Can we do better? And that's what we all hopefully drive to always do, is to do better. And so is that this? Maybe not, but as long as our focus is that we want to do better, I think that's important. Commissioner Clark?
Agree with I think it's helpful because I think some people are hearing more. There's different reasons why people want this. Let's just name that. So if part of this as a board, remember, we have to remember what we're a policy guidance board, right? We're not implementers. If part of this is to help us better understand and help our constituents understand and to feel more comfortable if we get contacted, to have people see where we're at, I think that's good. I'm having trouble, and I'm hoping you can help me understand why you would want individuals' names versus the data behind it. Are you not trusting that we would get the information? Or, I have a feeling there's like a whole bunch of different things in places I would personally like to better understand, but I am struggling with why hearing names and positions.
Well, you asked the question, so I'll
Yeah.
answer it. We were given information. A lot of people watch our meetings, including county employees.
Right.
And after the first presentation, I couldn't believe how much interaction I got from county employees saying, that is not accurate. That is not, and then I said, well, give me an example. And then they gave me examples of where this wasn't happening or was happening or whatever. So, not trusting, that's a strong statement. What did Ronald Reagan always say? Trust but verify.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind talking to some of those employees saying, how's that working for you? If you're fed information, one thing I'm finding out, unfortunately, is that, we're always fed information, and you certainly want to take that for face value and trust that and everything. But I want to verify, and so that's why. And again, I don't think that's the issue, and it shouldn't become the issue. The issue is addressing the issue, the higher up issue. But so for a combination of things, we all do things differently, approach things differently. I love going in, walking into the departments and just saying, how's it going? What's the issue? When people are walking out of here, West Service Center, how was your experience? What did you do here? So everybody does a different way of getting that flavor of things. Of course, typically we hear the complaints of when something didn't work out when we're out in our districts. But it's nice to be in here and in the West Service Center and interact directly with employees and residents of what their experience is. So that's why.
Okay. So can I follow up on that?
Sure.
I'm hearing a what's really going on? And do people, this isn't your words, but one of the questions I've asked, is there an outlet for people who are frustrated, or a way for them to, get more information or dealing with their own situations? And I'm mindful of one of the meetings I was in this week, is there is so much information that coworkers can't know about each other, or any performance related, or things we can't know. So people only hear or see what they hear and see. And if they're frustrated about something, even if we get those names, I don't think that's going to tell us the picture about what's between people. And so I'm mindful of, part of the question has been, how is a supervisor or somebody higher than that, how do you deal when a decision's been made and some people are upset, or they're upset about what they believe is somebody's performance or how they're interacting, when you can't, as the supervisor, talk to the person, nor can we, about what actually might be happening. So just gets kind of complicated, and I appreciate the desire to understand that.
Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Mike had mentioned that we are doing a hybrid now, that everybody is coming back to work to some extent. We had a base level before COVID, okay? And somehow, again, prior to COVID, I thought we were functioning okay as a county. Maybe what we learned to be able to work online, working with work from home, has maybe helped us. But somewhere, again, there's maybe that sweet spot that's going to be there, okay? Maybe it's going to be 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 50% of the time. But I don't see it being a problem of having some type of standard policy for those people that were working here in the office prior to COVID to be here in the office. Otherwise, we'll be going back and forth. We could put the policy into effect January 1, and maybe we learn, maybe we can be more flexible, maybe we cut it back, or some companies are even bringing people more back to the office. But otherwise, we're going to have the dialogue. I don't think we can wait for the new council member to come on board before we move it forward. So I would like to see us come to a decision as far as a policy in place by January 1 somehow.
Commissioner Notch?
Could I make another suggestion? Could we allow administration, let's say that 30 days, and maybe if it's important for you, Commissioner Bertram, to know some of these names, could they provide them to you?
Well, I'm sensitive to that. I'm the one that asked for it, but Commissioner Clark will always remind me that whatever I ask for, everybody gets, so, and that's fine. So, yes, I'm going to get the information one way or another. I mean, I'm going to do a data request. Let's not make this so hard. And again, I'm not going to release it to the public or anything, but I do want to do my own investigation, and I have a right to that. So I don't want the discussion to be about that. It's about the remote work discussion. How we get to where we want to get to is a secondary thing, in my opinion, but I have a right to that information. So, again, I'm hearing that, we're open to continuing this to then maybe the 21st of October to answer some of the questions that kind of have been raised and provide some of the data. So, Commissioner Clark.
I'm going to say this as gently as I can. I'm not sure why any of us would think we have a right to that information. And the minute it's out there, everybody can have it. And it's not something we collect right now. My concern, as when Commissioner Mergen was on here, when he wanted it to be easy to be able to find out what everybody made, the question then ended up getting into a whole lot of categories about where are they at in the pay scale, what are their benefits. It got to be very complicated. So with all due respect, this is not, perhaps we'll need somebody else to come in and tell us what we actually have a quote-unquote right to versus not.
Mr. Chair?
So, Mike, am I missing something, or?
Well, certainly, if I was to provide this information, and we did provide this, but not in that exact form. For example, I have the Auditor-Treasurer schedule here, and land records 404 staff work hybrid. They're 3 days in, 2 days remote. And so we have that kind of information. Some are not that clear. Some are rotate out as the business needs, but some are certainly a number of days. If I'm going to provide this information to you, I would not provide it with names. I would provide it with job classifications or titles or by department or something. I certainly don't think we need to give the board a list of 1,000 employees and what their work schedules are. That just doesn't make sense to me. I assume you could get that. I mean, certainly we can do that, but I think that's definitely overkill in the amount of information we would be asked to provide. But we do have, in general, what you're asking for.
And the position would be the same because, again,
Yes.
I can connect the
Yes.
dots pretty
You
quick.
could connect the dots.
The position to the, so the position, I guess, would be more,
Right.
that's
Your job class
the
or something,
position.
and you would be
If
able
you
to-
say Commissioner, 3rd District, you don't have to say my name.
Right.
Everybody knows it's Jeff Bertram. So yeah, that's fine. And again, no disrespect, but trust and verify. And then get a flavor for, I really want to continue to encourage employees, both who are for changing it and who are not for, to continue the dialogue, because every conversation I've had, I've learned something that I didn't know. And I've only been here 3 years, but this is an important issue, and I think we need to deal with it, so.
And Mr. Chair, if I might,
Commissioner Clark.
certainly a good point. Maybe whether it's Jennifer or somebody else could even give us some suggested open-ended questions we had asked people, because again, I think one of the hard parts, and we all deal with this all the time, we're hearing one side or what people perceive or what they personally know versus what might be reality. And that's a hard part too. And, it puts us in a really awkward spot when somebody is talking to us on either side of this, because they may or may not actually know what else is happening. And so I'm getting calls too, but I think, and I know in general AMC would say we stay out of personnel related. If we get calls, we should be moving on. I also appreciate your trust and verify. I appreciate that as well.
So I think you got enough direction, or do you need clarity on anything?
I think we can go from here.
Commissioner Notch, you look like I can tell by your face when you got a question or a statement.
Well, this is just a comment, and maybe Jennifer can confirm this, or if I dreamt this up. But when I first got elected, you used to send out new hires and also who either retired or resigned in their position? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Commissioner Bertram, Jennifer Thorsten, Human Resources Director. Commissioner Notch, yes, there were reports sent. I would need to verify if those are still being sent or not sent. You're not
Yeah, I haven't
receiving
seen it,
them.
no. Because they used to always,
yeah.
every month we'd get, okay,
It was new
here's
hires and,
what their position was, and actually I think it had their pay on it, if I
okay.
remember right. And then if they retired, resigned, or whatever, it said what their position was, and I think what their pay was. If
I wasn't sure that pay was on it, but I do remember
I-
those reports. You might have gotten it, you've been on the board
Way
longer.
back when I first got on.
Is that a report you're interested in?
Well, I'm just saying, I think that was,
I do
We used to
believe it
get
was
that,
there,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Since I've been here, I think when I was first here, we were doing that.
yeah.
And it must
That
still
might
be
be-
done.
We would have the
For inter-
records. Apparently, it's not being sent.
Yeah,
It's probably being accumulated, it's just not being shared then probably.
Right.
Okay,
yeah, because it was just kind of a list, and,
Yeah.
oh, you looked at it and said, oh, okay, they
Yeah.
had 10 people resigned, retired, and hired 10 more people in these positions, and I thought it had their starting pay or something on
Yeah,
it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at that.
Which,
and by the way, I do have all the employees and the salaries that, again, I just have for my own purposes because it's hard to manage. I know Commissioner Clark and I view our positions a little different, but, really, I mean, the buck stops with us. And if we don't know something, how can we fix something or how can we be aware of something? Because this affects this, so the more, I'll never get enough information to know the bigger discussion to make the decisions that we have to make. so that's why it's not, I haven't shared it with anybody, but I do have it, and we have a right to get it. And again, but neither here nor there, but, so I think, go ahead.
Commissioner Bertram, to Ms. Clark's request, there are some personnel matters, if you get that data in that capacity, employees, on leaves, ADA, discipline, those types of things might generate what those reports could look like. There's sometimes a story behind the story as well. The other thing I would note too is as we move forward and departments progress, what the past looks like compared to what the future may look like may not be a current analysis of what's happening in the current trend versus post-trend, too. So some considerations, we can come up with a list of those items that could, give some confusion to the data that's obtained too as well, so.
And I hope the goal is to, hearing what you hear, everybody, it's, if somebody came back with a hybrid of something, wouldn't be unreasonable, as I started when I said 100% is not realistic, but nothing is not realistic, in my opinion. So coming up with some compromise, and if you don't come up with the compromise, then we'll do it, or potentially do it from here. It would be more productive if we did it together, and we said, okay, we can change these things to accommodate some of the things that we talked about. But I think we talked about it enough. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I almost agree. I would say there is one category in there that we don't use, which is the fully remote, and that potentially could go away. I would think that would be something everybody would agree on, because that's not happening. We're not doing that.
Policy in that direction.
Right. I mean, that could be something. And if that's partially what's kind of stirring some folks up, for lack of a technical term, that might be a useful thing to at least be bringing back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
The
you.
next item would be the 2026 preliminary budget and property levy. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, this is another item that you've had discussions in four previous meetings anyway, starting in the end of July. And you also heard from a few of our outside entities that you fund. And now is the time that the board needs to adopt that preliminary levy. And as you know, the preliminary levy needs to be adopted before the end of September. And once you do that, you as a board cannot increase that levy. And when you finally adopt the 2026 budget in December, you could lower that, but you cannot higher it. And so the numbers that you have before you are the same as you discussed in our budget meeting in your last meeting, with one change, and I noted that in the board action is previously we were saying that we thought the tax rate would be reduced by about 0.5%. The state assessed property numbers came in. In other words, those are the properties that we don't assess. The state provides those dollar amounts or those valuations. And there was some decreases in that, I think because of appeals. And so the tax rate won't decrease by 0.5%, but only by 0.25%. So the levy is still being proposed at a 5.2% increase, and that's what is included in the resolution before you today.
And I commend you and the work group. It's still higher than Commissioner Notch's 1% to 2% goal. But we did start out at 14, and I know some people think that that's, a facade, that it's made up. It wasn't. We saw that firsthand. We all shared publicly and privately our concerns with different things, and the group, changed things and reduced things, added things. Changed employees. There is a lot of input, and so this is not just willy-nilly. I mean, this is definitely a lot of work behind the scenes. At the AMC Fall Conference, we went around at the Rural Caucus. I don't know how many counties were there, 35. A lot of them were double digits. I feel sorry for some of the smaller counties that don't have the resources that we have. They were doing double-digit increases, and they didn't like it. They didn't feel good about it. And Counties are making decisions all over the place on different things. Beltrami contributed an excess amount to the library to help the library over the years, and now they've decided to stop that, and they've gotten a lot of pushback on that. So people are making tough decisions, and so have we, and so will we have to continue to do that. So thank you for the work that you've done. It's, again, it won't be worse than 5.2, and Commissioner Notch will continue to work for his numbers, and I support him. I'm behind him 100%. But this is, you've done, it's manageable. You've done good work to get to where we are. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I very much agree with that, and being able to go down even a little bit on the rate is good. And thankfully, we're not like Beltrami that has largely tribal lands in their county or other federal or state lands that can't be taxed. And so they have a particular challenge that I think all of us can appreciate. I believe we're going to be the lowest or close to the lowest in the MICA counties as well. That doesn't mean that the work that you're doing to try to decrease it isn't important. The contingency fund will probably remain important given the uncertainty on the federal level. I know we're probably going to have more conversation on this, but even though I'd like it to be 1 or 2%, I don't know how we'd ever get there with salaries and energy, among other things, and roads, et cetera. But I'm going to make the motion to approve the resolution adopting the preliminary budget and property tax levy.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Clark,
I'll second that motion.
seconded by Commissioner Persky. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Issues by commissioners. Who wants to start? Commissioner Notch.
Okay, yeah, don't really have much. Planning on attending the, I think Aaron's group is having a hazard mitigation plan meeting in Melrose. I forget what day that is. I think it's October 2nd. It's in the evening from 6 to 8. So she had one in Belgrade, but I had a conflict with that one, so I couldn't go. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go, and it's just I think a review of her plan. Every so many years she has to present. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and see what that's all about.
A lot of those have been canceled, unfortunately. There was one in Kimball, one person signed up, so that was canceled. So,
Then I guess we'll see if Melrose happens. or
well,
not.
you might want to check with that. And then there was going to be one main one. I can't remember where for sure, or if it has been already. But, and then she said she would share with us that information anyway, so. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay. No birthday this month
No.
for this meeting? Commissioner Persky?
Just a few things. First of all, Jody Tyke and I were out in D.C. Last week with Transportation Alliance. A lot of good dialogue. Also looking for continuation of funding for roads, at the county level, also at state level. That helps us. We made some progress. We're working on the wetland replacement change for the 1-to-1 replacement opposed to the 2-to-1 replacement. And we got a lot of support both at the county level, state level, and at the national level. So all of our representatives are aware of it and that we're looking at some type of change there that would hopefully benefit us. Did have some issues again this past week with some noise at an establishment out in St. Joe, and again, we've dealt with that for years, and we need to get that resolved somehow. And I want to say I appreciate our dialogue on the back to work. I think though we owe it to our employees that if we're going to have a change that they know that change is going to come, and that a January 1 deadline might be the most spot for an earmark as far as setting a date. But then again, that doesn't mean we can't come back and change that either to see what's working and what's not working. So yeah, it's not an easy thing, but I think at least we can then clarify where we are as far as policy and procedures as operating. So I think we're in a good place.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, a few things. I was going to join Commissioner Persky and Jody in Washington, but was invited to come to a youth justice peer exchange in Pierce County, Washington, Tacoma County, through NACO, and it was great. Small group, it reinforced a lot of the incredible things that are happening in our county and with our communities, particularly between our corrections division and our family and children's division. They are doing a few different things with local providers that was very interesting that, Steve and I are gonna get to be hopefully at least a little bit at MACAC this week, the community corrections, and we'll bring up with other commissioners some of those. The emergency services was brought up. One of the things that might be interesting to see at some point is we're fairly unique in a good way. I just want to say sometimes we like talking about other counties and we have a lot to brag on. Our incredible work between emergency services and public health. A lot of these plans, the kind of cooperation, the work together, the sharing of resources is pretty incredible, and maybe we could get even a brief presentation at some point, because it's something that would be a good thing for us to know about. We've continue to talk about some of the challenges with the state budget and the potential of it affecting our residents, our taxpayers, as well as the federal. And to that end, I've gotten appointed to a couple things from AMC that I hope to be a good advocate for our residents and our property taxpayers, and with our staff, particularly as it relates to some of the changes on Medicaid and SNAP, and then with the waivered services. We've got a lot of people who really count on a lot of services, and it's a growing part of the state budget, and instead of them just turning it over to our property taxpayers, we'll continue to work on that. And then just, I guess, as a public service announcement, we obviously have a special election going on, and maybe you were going to bring this up, Mr. Chair, but there will be a meet and greet hosted by the League of Women Voters on Tuesday, September 30th, from 6 to 7 at the St. Cloud Public Library for those running for District 4. It might actually get turned into a candidate forum. Right now, both candidates haven't agreed to that, but hopefully they'll both come, because it's important that they get a chance to meet some people. So I recognize we've got another couple things going on that day, but hopefully some potential constituents will stop by that and get to talk to folks.
Okay, thank you. Yesterday was, as I shared with Steve and Joe yesterday on the radio, I did acknowledge you couldn't join us, and
thank
we
you.
all miss you. But
Appreciate that.
Yesterday was National Family Day, which of course is important for our country more than ever. October 7th, the remote meeting. Mike, I assume everything's going well in planning. Certainly I'm hearing a lot of people that are, I guess, appreciative that we're going to do an after-hour meeting and a rural meeting, so see how that goes. And then for the highway engineer interviews, I didn't have a chance to talk to you about this, Mike, and just to kind of get an idea of amongst the board. But my thinking is that if the chair and the vice chair, Commissioner Notch and I, join the leadership team in that set of interviews, it would give kind of a perspective. And because we can't do it as a board anyway, then Commissioner Persky and Commissioner Clark could do their interview, just a suggestion, rather than having, I don't know what your thoughts were, rather than having 3 interviews, Commissioner Notch and I could join the leadership team in that interview, and then, or maybe some of the leadership team with them.
I like the one-on-one idea, in all honesty.
Oh, okay, well, however
But I
many,
think
however many any interviews you can set up, I don't know, we don't want to be overbearing to a applicant either, but whatever works.
Right.
I'm willing to do a team approach, and if Commissioner Notch doesn't want to join the leadership team, I guess I'd like to do that, because again, you've done these interviews, and so that'll be a little bit better reflective for me to be a part of that, but just a suggestion. And
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, one of the things I know that the Otter Tail County Commissioners definitely wooed our trusted, awesome engineer and us being able to spend some individual time. And I would personally be a little concerned that we didn't all have the exact same kinds of opportunities, so that would be my concern, because we're all members of this board, so. But I know that you already had a plan, and you've already put it out on our calendar, so that's good.
Yeah, well, we've marked off the day, Mr. Chair, we've marked off the day. I think I offered a couple of suggestions that would either do one-on-ones or two commissioners in one and then have a panel. I'm certainly open to doing it any way the board wants to do it. We could have the chair in with the panel and do 3 other individuals. We can do it however the board really sees fit. I just want to make sure that there's, candidate interaction with board
Exactly.
members in addition to
Right.
a few people from the leadership team, which I assume will be, a handful at the most.
And again, certainly, we're all going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that none of us aren't. I just didn't know if they were all going to be one-on-ones. And how complicated would that make it for an applicant? But you figure that out. But,
Yeah.
so from my perspective, I'd like to join the leadership team. And then if Commissioner Notch doesn't want to, if another commissioner wants to join the leadership team interview, they certainly could. And then still do the other variation than what's ever left. So my request would be to join the leadership team interview, if we can do that.
We also intended, to send out some questions in advance, just so you see those, and if you want to give some feedback, you can. As you know, we're pretty used to doing questions, but we'll certainly want feedback if you have some.
And because it's unique, I mean, you'd be open to tweaking some things or
Absolutely.
potentially adding a question or something. Yeah, so the sooner we can see those would be helpful. I think, fraud, of course, is front and center to everybody. And I read something from the acting U.S. Attorney, Joe Thompson, that I shared yesterday a little bit. He talked about fraud being out of control. And to my earlier point, trust but verify isn't working, he said. And that's really problematic, because even if we're not a part of it as Stearns County, if we're receiving funds from the top down and we don't question things at our level to help this, because it's really, it just seems to be so widespread. And that I've shared several things with Mike and Randy on some of the joint powers boards that we're on. My concern is that we're really got our thumb on this, that we're watching. So even though it's not our funds, we're empowered. That's why we're on the joint powers board, to oversee these. And it's really vigilant that we all continue to watch that very, very closely, in my opinion. And only because this is the last meeting before my son Jacob and Kylie get married, and he listens to these meetings, believe it or not. So if he's listening, I just want to wish him and Kylie all the best, and I think I'm going to be able to make that. So looking forward to the wedding on October 4th. Nothing else. The meeting is adjourned.